Hello, Patriots. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're watching from. I'm Josh Fernie, and this is the very first episode of A Nature's Nationalist. I'm an activist for the Homeland Party, so it's probably about time that I started making my own content because so many people like to try and use my politics against me and use the fact that I'm a member of the Homeland Party against me. Now, people like to say that the Homeland Party is a neo-Nazi party. It's a fascist party. It's not. It's a nationalist party. It stands for our people in our ancestral homeland. We believe that the Scottish people, the English people, the Welsh people, the British people as a whole, and the European peoples have identities. And we have an identity that is non-negotiable. So many people that are not our people, you can tell by looking at them, and then you look at them and they try and tell you that they're Scottish or they're English or they're British, and you're like, no, you are not. But yeah, the protests have been going so well. Like, I say this to everyone, it's one of the main reasons I never black pill is because about 2 years ago, when I first started speaking out politically here in Aberdeen, not many people were that responsive to it. But now, 18 months to 2 years on, the Aberdeen Against Illegal Migration team, the father and son duo that started that up, have been an absolute godsend for Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire on a whole, because they've really been able to tap into the working class, because that's what they are. We're all just working class people that want the best for our fellow man and woman. We want them to be safe. We don't want our people getting taxed into oblivion. We don't want our people having to work right up until they're at death's door so they can have a couple of days of peace and quiet. We want our people to be able to retire. Everyone has an aging population, but the problem is, because we've let feminism come in, and it's that's why in Western nations, or white nations as we might want to call them, women have been encouraged to go to work, and there's nothing wrong with a woman wanting a career. But the problem is that all these women going into careers has caused the white birth rate to absolutely plummet. And that's not just on the women, it's on the men as well. But it's mainly on our leaders that have allowed this to happen. Feminism is what gave way to woke. And it's what gave way to the trans ideology. Like I was saying, the protests have been going so well. And that's the thing, in Aberdeen, we go out and I get to speak to people. A lot of people from Aberdeen already know me because I grew up here. So they know I'm not this fire-breathing monster that they like to portray. But when you go to these protests, we've got some really good media team people now, like Big Matty, DJR Media, Keith streams as well, and Scylla, she streams. So I thought it was just about time that I maybe started to make some long-form content so that I could speak about what's going on, and that people can actually see what my beliefs are on these situations, rather than just coming in with the old, oh, he's a racist, oh, he's Islamophobic, he's anti-Semitic, all that rubbish. So at least this way, you're getting to hear the honest truth from me. One of the biggest problems we have at the protests is the same thing that most people have the problem with, is the fact that the establishment are actively working against us. Like, you see, the police take so much enjoyment in working against the native people. That's why we should not ever allow foreigners into positions of power, because foreigners in positions of power are always going to have that little bit in their mind that's saying to them that they need to look out for their people, whether it's a conscious thought or subconscious. It's mainly going to be conscious. But these people, they come in and they try and subvert our people. That's what, when you hear terms like Islamophobic, racist, transphobic, anti-Semitic, xenophobic, all these rubbish, they're all just words and terms used to silence the native population. We shouldn't have our speech curtailed, our way of life's curtailed because of some foreigners' feelings. That's not what living is. I remember growing up in the 90s and people would say something like, oh, I can say whatever I want, it's a free country. That days have long gone, because now we live in this melting pot. The government, this isn't just Westminster, by the way, this is Holyrood as well. Westminster and Holyrood welcome our replacement. Like I said at the start, they'll say that it's because we've got like an aging population, that's why we need this mass immigration. Well, maybe if we didn't make it so hard for families to live, maybe if we created tax incentives for families to stay together and have large families, then maybe we wouldn't have the situation that we're in today, where we have a rapidly declining birth rate of the native population in Britain. For anyone that's been on Twitter or Facebook recently, you'll have seen the messages that have been getting sent from Unite Against Fascism Aberdeen to the Dundee Patriots group. And it's just disgusting. These are the ones that are meant to be seen as the good guys, the tolerant ones. But they're sending messages that I'm not going to put up here just in case YouTube rips it straight down. But they're saying things about targeting people's kids. Like, it's just horrible. These guys are meant to be the tolerant ones, but they're only tolerant as long as you accept your replacement. As long as you do not want your people to have an identity, if you don't want the future generations of our homeland to have a future here, then they're totally okay with that. But the minute that you want to fight for our people, they will declare war against you. That is pretty much what it is. It is war to them. Whereas us, we're fighting for the greater good. We want to retain the beauty of our nation, whereas these lot are just happy to burn it down to the ground. It just does my nutting. But one of the things that I did really want to talk about here is the not just under 16s, there was a couple under 16s, but the youth that got into trouble in Kirkcaldy in Fife for going down to the town hall and doing the Roman salutes and going down with the SS flag. Like, we know the world that we live in today, that if you go down something like an SS flag, the British government and the police are just going to use that as the perfect excuse to lift you and destroy whatever movement and momentum that you've built. I get that we're angry. I get that the youth are screaming out for their identity back, because a lot of these kids have never had the opportunity to know what it's like to grow up in a safe, homogenous society. We have. That's why they're screaming out for this identity. We're fighting to get our identity back, to reinforce our identity. The younger ones are so radical because they've never known an identity. All they've known is being spoke down to, getting treated like a second-class citizen because they're white. We're told that skin color means nothing, but as soon as you're white, as soon as you're one of the native population, it matters. Like, just look at like the police force, the RAF, stuff like this. The RAF is the Royal Air Force, by the way. That's what I served in. They're encouraging people of color to join, and they're dismissing native people because they want to be this multicultural workforce. We are not multicultural. We are a multicultural nation, but we're not a multiracial nation. So this book here, The History of the Scottish People, it's got a really good couple of paragraphs in here about the ethnic groups that make up us. So I'm just going to read it to you. The people of the country came from 5 different ethnic groups who had occupied or invaded northern Britain in the Dark Ages. The oldest were an ancient Celtic people, known to their foes as the Picts, whom the Romans had fought, and Tacitus described, noticing those features of red hair and large limbs that cartoonists, not without reason, still regard as a characteristically Scottish. By 500 AD, they were confined north of the Forth Clyde line, their main settlements apparently lying mainly along the eastern side of the country from Fife to the Moray Firth, and marked today by the distribution of Pictish symbol stones like those gathered in the wonderful museum at Meagle in Perthshire, and by place names carrying the prefix Pict, like Pitlochry. In the opposite quarter of Scotland, below them to the south west, were the Britons, who occupied the land of Cumbria, stretching all the way from Dumbarton over to Carlisle, and including also a wide area south of the Solway, in what is now Cumberland and Westmoreland. They were the northern half of the southern Celtic peoples, the ancient Britons, of popular parlance, whom the invading Teutonic Angles had pushed back into Wales and Scotland when the Romans withdrew from England. The Angles themselves had swept up from their base in Northumberland, seeking more and more fertile land, and in the 7th century had stabilised their main northern settlements in Lothian. Some 2 centuries before that, another Celtic people calling themselves the Scotti had invaded from Ireland and established themselves in Dalriada, or what is roughly modern Argyll. A second branch of the same people invaded Galway to the west of British Cumbria and founded there a society which was to have strongly separatist tendencies for many centuries to come. Finally, at the 8th century, the Norwegians attacked from Scandinavia and settled all the northern and western from Scandinavia. Finally, at the end of the 8th century, the Norwegians had attacked from Scandinavia and settled all the northern and western islands. The shores of the Pentland Firth and parts of the western seaboard from Wigtown to Sutherland. This onslaught combined, as it was, with the invasions of the Norsemen in England and Ireland, virtually encircled the older peoples of Scotland and the modern English border counties and cut them off from their Celtic and Teutonic relations elsewhere in the 9th and 10th centuries. Each of the 5 people spoke a distinct language, each was warlike, each was centred in a distinct geographical area. So yes, we come from different ethnic groups coming together into what is called an ethnogenesis. So the first big split in Scotland was between Highlanders and Lowlanders, but we have always had the identity of the Scottish people. We're one of the oldest nations in the world. But those ethnic groups came together, had the ethnogenesis that created the Scottish people. So we have an identity, the same as the English people. The English people had an ethnogenesis of different ethnic groups that ended up creating the English. We have an identity. So when you see these people saying stuff that ethno-nationalism falls away because DNA doesn't have borders. You're right, DNA doesn't have borders, which is why if I go and have children in China, they're still going to be Scottish. It does not mean that any black or brown can come here and become one of us. It just does not work like that. So one of the main things I wanted to clarify here is about remigration, because a few people have asked me at these protests, with them being Welsh, with them being English, if that means that they would be remigrated out of Scotland. That's not what it's about. The English, the Scottish, the Welsh, we're pretty much exactly the same. This is our island. This is our homeland. Our ancestors fought and died for it. They made this island as beautiful as it is. We owe it to them to leave it just as beautiful for the future generations. So if you're English and you're living in Scotland, or you're Welsh and you're living in Scotland, you are not going to be remigrated. Same as the Scottish people are not going to be remigrated from Wales and England. Britain is ours. Europe is ours. We are a people. We have to come together. This whole divide between Scotland and England, it is so old and boring. Do you know, alone we were Scottish clans fighting and warring amongst each other. But when we came together as the British Empire, we conquered over a quarter of the world. Do you know what I mean? So we are stronger together. The English people and the Welsh people fight the same tyranny that we are fighting. Holyrood and Westminster are both exactly the same. They hate the native people. They do not want nationalists rising, because what is nationalism? It's people that believe that a country is made up of people of a common ancestry, common background and culture. And culture is like, people want to go on about the British culture. Culture is passed down from parent to child through generations and generations. That's what it is. I stole that from Tom Roswell, so thank you very much, mate. But yeah, like, people are going about the British culture. There is no thing as a British culture. There's a Scottish culture, there's an English culture, there's a Welsh culture. Together, that's what our multiculturalism is. That's what our diversity is. And this is another thing I should tag on. True diversity is all nations having their own identity and thriving. People having their right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland. That's what we're trying to bring about. Everyone going back to their homelands to make them just as beautiful as we're going to return Britain to, because she has been battered. I mean, just look at the Scottish census. In 2011, 91 to 92% of Scotland's population was native. By 2022, that was down to 87.1%. And that was before the post-COVID Boris wave. Do you know, and just look at the mass immigration. In Labour's first year, over 900,000 migrants have come here, and only around 60,000 of them have been illegal. Illegal migration is a problem, yes, but a lot of these illegals have already been naturalised and been given asylum, even though they fled France, where there's no war going on. So only 60,000 of that over 900,000, nearly 1 million people, are illegal. So illegal immigration is such a small fraction of it. Like, we are being replaced legally, and people want to say, oh, as long as they come here legally. Look at the stats and then try and think about what it's going to be like by 2032 if we don't stop this. We need to reverse demographic replacement, because without us, without the Scottish people, without the British people, there is no Scotland, there is no Britain. A people makes the nation, and a nation does not make the people. So you cannot import every third world Christian African here and expect them to be us. But that's what parties like UKIP and that believe. As long as you want to live like us and support us, that you can be us, you will never be us. We have an identity. So another thing I want to talk about is the Afghans that are coming here. So look at Wayne Broadhurst. Wayne Broadhurst just wanted to walk his dog. He was butchered in the street by an Afghani immigrant who was staying in one of the hotels. Now, the Afghanis that are coming over here at the moment were the Afghanis who were growing up when we were over there fighting and bombing them. So obviously they've grown up radicalized, and now they're coming over here and you're seeing it. You see the resentment and the hatred they have for our people. But yet our government's like, come on guys, come on over, we'll give you everything. This is why we have to come together for the safety of our people. It is the only way we are going to survive. I mean, nothing has changed since, look at the early 2000s. Kriss Donald, a 15-year-old Scottish boy, abducted by a bunch of Pakistanis, tortured, butchered, they set him on fire, stabbed him, and then killed him. It's absolutely disgusting, and nothing has changed to protect our people. Year after year after year, people have been asking for less immigration, and we're just getting more and more. And the more we bring in, the more dangerous it's getting. That is why you've got the youth rising up, the youth getting so radical. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to go. Maybe one day we'll live in a world where it's safe for people to express themselves again. No, scrap that. We will live in a world where it's safe for us to say and express ourselves however we want. But we need to turn to real nationalism. And instead of waving SS symbols and stuff like that, remember, Scottish people have got their own symbols as well that we can wave about that are going to stress the left out just as much. But nothing has changed. Kids were getting butchered back then. The grooming gangs, nothing's changed. They're still actively going on. And our government do not care. That is why I do not mind putting my head above the parapet. I do not mind having my face out there, because if it's going to take some of us to take the blows, I do not mind it being me. I will rise above it, and I will never back down from things I've said. They will try and tell me that because I believe that Scottish people are white, that I'll deport every mixed race person. I won't. The only mixed race people that will be deported are the subversive ones. Most mixed race people identify with their non-white side. Look at the BLM riots. All these mixed race people were going on about Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. They did not, they almost actively hate their white side. So that's why if we've got mixed race people that are identifying with their white side and they're fighting the good fight, why are we going to get rid of supporters? No, this fight is going to be a long fight, and we are going to need numbers. So just because I believe, and that's, people try to tell you that remigration is just about getting rid of all the non-white people, when really, we don't really want a load of white foreigners coming here after we've got remigration either. We want our people to have that right to self-determination in our ancestral homeland. Before I finish this first episode, I just want to say thank you to John Hall Senior and Junior, all the team at Aberdeen against illegal migration, Scylla, Keith, Big Matty, all the Cars, and the Homeland Party, and everyone else that stuck by me. Yeah, it's not been easy. I know a lot of you get messages and stuff to try and dissuade you from supporting me and supporting the movement and fighting for our people. So to you guys, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to Anglo Spirit. Top brand, top brand. The existence of our people and our identity is non-negotiable. So be brave and be courageous. Our people and our homeland are going to count on it. Thank you.